Before I moved to New York City, I knew it was gonna be hard to find an apartment, but I don't think I realized quite how hard, and I don't think I realized that I was gonna have to give up like literal daylight and, space to store items and whatnot.
I really wanted it to feel warm and cozy. It's like a real hustle and bustle outside, so I just wanted it to be a place where when we came in, it felt really comfortable and homey.
This rent is super comfortable for me. I'm endlessly grateful that I have this. It's the hugest blessing of my life because I would not be able to afford an apartment of this size on my teacher's salary.
Before I moved to New York City, I knew it was gonna be hard to find an apartment, but I don't think I realized quite how hard, and I don't think I realized that I was gonna have to give up like literal daylight and, space to store items and whatnot. Hello, and welcome to my East Village, New York City apartment. My name's Elena, and I am 23 years old, and I live in New York City. I live in a 3-bedroom apartment with 2 roommates, and together we pay $5,150 in rent each month, and then I personally pay $1,850 for my room. I am a full-time social media content creator, primarily on YouTube. I make videos all about travel, when that was a thing still, sustainable fashion, health and wellness, everything kind of within that realm. So when I first moved in here, I was really stressing about the rent. I kind of viewed this apartment as an investment because I'm like, well, if I don't live in New York forever and I hopefully won't be paying this much rent forever, I knew it was worth that little, extra push. And then as time has gone on and I keep growing in my career and building my own brand, it's become more, feasible. I know that I'm paying for a lot more than just this apartment. I'm definitely paying to get to live in this neighborhood, which feels like it's worth it to me. I originally started off with a budget of like $1,700, and then I eventually bumped it up to around $1,800 to be able to live here, which was hard at first. So it is very competitive in New York. We made sure we had like every paperwork that we might need ready to go. We spent like 2 full weeks of looking at so many apartments to finally find this one. And I eventually found it through StreetEasy, and I came and saw it with my roommates, and we're like, this is the spot. As soon as we saw this apartment, we let the broker know that night that we were super interested. And then by the next morning, we had sent in all our paperwork. Once they approved us, we signed it within like an hour or 2. So it was definitely a very quick process. I knew that it was gonna be expensive moving in here, so I definitely saved up as much as I could before moving in. So when we moved in, a lot of money was required. We had to pay a broker's fee and then first month's rent and then a security deposit. So when we moved in, we needed $15,000 cash, which still to me is just like, how is that like a thing? I love the East Village. I think it's a really cool area. It's nice because it feels quite central to where I enjoy spending my time. Welcome. As you come on in, the first thing you see is this kitchen. It's pretty large. I feel like for New York standards, there's a lot of really great storage right here. And this island is really great for cooking with friends, to just like have a bunch of chopping boards, cutting up vegetables, making food. So this is like the only light for this like communal living space. We have a lot of like little plants kind of scattered throughout, and we house some books up there. So we have a bit of a mix of dry goods and like medicines and spices and some dishware. And then we have a nice big fridge as well. So here is the living room. Welcome. This is like our main communal space. Pretty sizable. We have a lovely little like breakfast nook area here where, me and my roommates will share a little meal. It's obviously small, but it's great for 2 people. And we actually have a projector down here. We'll often just project it here and get like a good little movie set up without having to like buy a whole TV, which has been nice. We didn't have a couch for the first like 3 weeks that we lived here, and so we were just sitting on the floor around this coffee table. So when we finally got the couch, we were so excited. It's kind of small, but it's super comfortable. A lot of friends will crash here. And then we just have lots of comfortable pillows and just like kind of a fun mix of prints and artwork and whatnot. And then this way leads you to the hallway. All right, welcome to my room. Come on in. My room personally is about 13 feet by 9 feet. So first off, we have my bed, which is just my pride and joy. It's very cozy and it's hard to get out of in the morning, but I love it. I also recently have been kind of redoing my room, especially during the whole pandemic, since I'm spending so much time in here. I have a lot of fun adding in like new little pieces. Here's my little bookshelf. I have just like a mix of different like books and journals that I've been reading recently. This little lamp right here, I put in a light bulb where I have a remote control. And so I can switch off the colors depending on my mood, which is really nice. I have my AC unit here, which is a lifesaver in the city. In the summer, you need one to survive. And then recently I've kind of made this more of a like comfortable work from home space. I got this desk off Facebook Marketplace, which I love. It was a super good deal. And then I recently invested in like a monitor setup. So when I edit a video or if I'm working on a project, I finally have like a nice desk space to work from because I can't work out of the co-working space I usually would work at pre-pandemic. And then here's my quarantine hobby of choice. I bought an electric guitar back in April and I've very slowly been learning. So here's my dresser, which is a great just additional space to my closet, just for more storage. I got it for super cheap from like Target, and I just actually recently painted it probably a month ago just to kind of mix up the space. Welcome to my closet. It's pretty spacious overall, I'd say, for New York standards. All right, so coming over here, we have my roommate Maxine's room. Her room space is pretty much identical to mine. It might just be a smidge smaller. And I really love her design style overall. I think she has like really cool taste. She has a smaller dresser and just a lot of little fun pieces. I really love her, like attention to detail and artistic eye. Her closet is a little bit smaller. Just crossing the hallway is my roommate Natalie's room. And her room is definitely smaller and doesn't get quite the amount of natural light. So she pays a few $100s less. I think she's done a great job with the space. She still has like a really big dresser in here and lots of fun little pieces throughout. And she doesn't have a closet in her room. So over here is her closet, which is just great extra storage. I would say it's slightly smaller than ours too as well. Hence her getting a better deal on the rent price. So here's the bathroom, which the three of us split, which, could be worse. It's sometimes hard splitting, but I feel like we manage it pretty well. Just kind of your classic New York bathroom, definitely not fancy, but it's got our lovely sink, a little vanity type style mirror so we can store items in there, shower, toilet, and it has a little window leading out into the alleyway, which is again nice for a smidge bit of light, just a tiny bit, and some fresh air. And so that's the bathroom. Not super exciting, but it's a good one. I think when this lease finishes up, there is a good chance we might move elsewhere, maybe try to get a little bit more space as, deals are changing here in New York, just because, instead of working out of an office or a co-working space, we're pretty much all at home. And so it would be nice to have a little bit more space to work and to breathe and to move around. So there's a good chance that this might be our final year here. I feel like for where this apartment is and how spacious it is, it really did feel like we got, a good bang for our buck.
So when we first moved in, the upfront costs were probably around like $15,000 because we had to pay first month's rent, the security deposit, and then the broker's fee. Hi, welcome to my New York City apartment. My name is Nikki. I am 26 and I live in New York City in a one-bedroom apartment with my husband, and we pay $3,800 a month. I'm a data scientist, and on the side, I run a little Instagram called Just a Homie that's about home decor. So when we first moved in, rent was $4,000, and that was like right at the edge of our budget. But this past year, when we renewed our lease, we were able to negotiate it down to $3,800. How I really wanted it to feel was like warm and cozy, especially because we're in the middle of the city. It's like a real hustle and bustle outside, so I just wanted it to be a place where when we came in, it felt really comfortable and homey. Since the pandemic, my husband and I have both been working from home, so we've definitely had to like readjust a couple things. My favorite thing about this apartment is probably the kitchen. It's like an open plan kitchen and it has a lot of counter space and it's modern. One of the biggest ways that we try to save money is by cooking and not eating out, just because that can add up really fast. So in order for like us to be motivated to cook, we just wanted to have a kitchen that was like, you know, you felt good being in it. My least favorite thing about our apartment is probably the lack of natural light. We're north and east facing. I think if anything during the pandemic, the lack of natural light has like gotten to my head. But I just think given like all the other things that this apartment had, it was something that I would have to compromise on. I mean, having natural light doesn't save me money like having like a good kitchen does, so. My husband and I were gonna get married in October 2019, and we were only gonna be in the city because we were traveling back and forth between here and California, and we had about a week time in the city where we could look for our apartment. We used a service called Lofty, which is a brokerage which helped us line up all of our open houses in like 1 or 2 days. And so for this apartment, we had seen it on Street Easy, and so we just told our broker, hey, we found this place, we wanna see it. And he set up an open house for us, and we got to come, and that's how we found the place. So for the application process, because it's a co-op, it's a little bit more strict than normal. So we had to, of course, show like our bank statements, proof of income. We also had to get personal and professional references. We also gave like a full financial statement. So all of our assets and everything we're invested in. It definitely takes some effort to collect all of that, but once we had that in, it was a couple weeks. And then you also have to go through an interview with the board of the co-op. So we came here and we sat down with like 5 people on the board, and they just asked us questions, and it was pretty casual, but I think they just wanted to like get to know us. When we first moved in, the upfront costs were probably around like $15,000 because we had to pay first month's rent, which was $4,000, the security deposit, which was also $4,000, and then the broker's fee, which was 15%. So that was like $7,000-ish, so it ended up being a total of $15,000. We love this neighborhood. We're less than a 5-minute walk from Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, H Mart, the subway station, like everything is near here. I think our apartment is like in between 600 and 700 square feet. I came from a tiny apartment that was like 300 square feet, so this definitely feels a lot bigger. And we're only 2 people and we like each other, so I guess it's not a big deal to be in this space. So this is our kitchen. As you can see, there is a pretty good amount of counter space, at least for New York City. And I really like the stove. This is like the fan. So actually all the smoke when you're cooking goes up into this fan. I can reach it if I tiptoe. So that's nice. We don't use it that often. We also really like this deep sink. I just feel like it makes it really easy to wash dishes when like the water's not splashing everywhere. We also have the dishwasher in here, which is also a must-have. The kitchen is really modern, and it was like newly renovated, so we try to like warm it up with like a wooden clock and some like wooden things out on the counter. This is our fridge, which we also really like because it's like built into or like flush against the wall, so it doesn't take up extra space, which is great. We didn't realize that the fridge wasn't magnetic, so there's a little Snoopy thing. This is what happened. So this is our dining area. We just put it right next to our kitchen. Our dining table is a CB2 dining table that I think is originally around like 300, but we got it off Facebook Marketplace for like 100. We also got our bar stools, which are West Elm bar stools that are usually like $200 each. And we got 2 from Facebook Marketplace for $150 total. I worked at my dining table for like 6 months. And then as soon as I started feeling a little pain, I was like, I need to get a desk. And it's a standing desk, which is super nice, so yay. So this is our living room. We've, I think, made it really cozy with this big rug that definitely like brings the space together. This is where we basically spend all of our time. We have our bookshelf with all of our books. We actually took the couch significantly farther away from the wall, and behind all of this is our storage. So you have all of our suitcases, well, half of our suitcases back here. So it's 1, 2, 3 suitcases. So this is the bathroom. It's also been renovated, so it's pretty modern and clean, which we love. You've got all the storage cabinets with mirrors. And my favorite part about the bathroom is the rain shower. So this is our bedroom. Obviously it's a little bit smaller than the living room, but we just didn't really prioritize getting a big bedroom. So we've got our bed right in the middle, my husband over there working, and his little desk area. This is our big closet. These are my clothes, and we've got some clothes in this dresser, some of Dylan's clothes, and then he's a lawyer, so he has to wear suits every day to work. So this is his suit section, but it's been untouched for the past 8 months. Keep all these storage containers under the bed. So this is the door to the patio, but it's raining right now. So if we open it, our room's gonna get flooded. So this is our bed. We didn't have a headboard for a while, but we just got this headboard that's actually it mounts to the wall. So you stick it on with Velcro strips. So it's not attached to the bed. We just didn't really invest in our bed frame or a headboard that much. It's one of the things I don't really want to splurge on. The rent is definitely way more than what we'd have to pay if we lived somewhere else, and I think we're very aware of that, so it definitely hurts a little bit, but I think given that we're in the middle of Manhattan and just New York City, we get to enjoy being so close to everything. I think that's kind of what it takes. I think for the rent that we're paying, we got a really good deal. We don't really know how long we're planning on staying. We just renewed our lease, so we're definitely here for another year. And I think we're just gonna take it year to year. We did want to buy, we do want to buy eventually, but yeah, the New York market is just pretty tough. It really sucks to rent and just throw money out the door every month. But yeah, just buying, I just don't think we're ready for there yet.
Being a special ed teacher, this rent is super comfortable for me. I'm endlessly grateful that I have this. It's the hugest blessing of my life because I would not be able to afford an apartment of this size on my teacher salary. Welcome to my Upper West Side apartment. My name is Hattie. I'm 29 years old. I live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I pay $1,300 a month in rent. I am a special education teacher. I'm also a part-time interior designer and part-time Instagram blogger. I think my favorite thing about my apartment is just when you step in, you feel like you're in another time period, and that was my biggest goal when doing all my projects. I really wanted to just preserve the history and character of this place. So the layout is unique. You just don't see a hallway like mine anymore. I really love my pantry area. There's an old dumbwaiter, all original cabinets. So you really just feel like you're living in 1900. I am a lifelong New Yorker and also lifelong Upper West Sider. Before we lived here, we lived in another smaller apartment, and then we moved here when I was 10, and I have been here ever since. So I live in a rent stabilized apartment, which is why it's so low in cost. When my parents moved into this apartment, it was a rent controlled apartment, but because they took over the lease, it became rent stabilized. We're not able to remember the exact number of the rent when we moved in, but I've tried to look back as far as I can in paperwork, and I can definitely say that it was under $1,000. This exact apartment, a couple floors up, went 2 years ago, I believe, for 38, maybe 36, but around that range. I think my friends just look at me in disbelief and then roll their eyes, but I think they're pretty happy for me. Growing up, my parents I don't think they were able to afford to ever buy in Manhattan, and also living in Manhattan, it's really quite the norm to be a renter forever. A lot of people ask me, why don't you just buy the apartment? Well, it's not up for sale, and I could never afford it. So my mom was also a teacher, so that's the reason that they got this apartment, and then they hung on to it for me because they knew it would be just such a great deal for me. So when my parents first told me that their plan was to transfer the lease into my name, I actually wasn't into the idea. I don't really know what was wrong with me, but I didn't like my apartment. I didn't think it was nice, and I maybe in my naive mind thought that I would be able to afford something nicer. But once they moved out, I got really interested in interior design and DIYs, and I realized that this is such a gem of an apartment and they don't make them like this anymore, and it's such a unique space, so I'm really happy that I changed my mind. I love the Upper West Side. It's definitely my favorite area in the whole city. I feel so blessed to have grown up here. The neighborhood has changed a lot in my lifetime, but I still really enjoy the neighborhood because there are still a few small businesses that are open. I love being surrounded by two beautiful parks, and I love being away from Midtown and downtown and all those noisy parts of New York. So I live in a really old building. This building was built in the 1890s, and I have absolutely zero amenities, but that's okay with me because I would much rather have space and charm. When I got started on working on this apartment, the main thing I wanted to do was to undo all of the weird renovations that other tenants had done. They had built walls over pocket doors. They took out original glass inserts in doors. And I just wanted to kind of restore all that and get it back to its original charm. So this is my foyer. I recently painted it. I wanted to create definition from this room and the hallway, and I really wanted this to feel like its own room. About a year ago, I wallpapered my front door. This is one of the moldings that I put up that's not original. I think the reason why this wall didn't have any moldings is because originally this apartment was combined with the one next door, so this wall wasn't even here. I thrifted this mirror and I gilded it myself just with some rub and buff. It's a really quick and easy project. And I also thrifted this table. My dresser here, this is the only piece of furniture that my parents left me with, and this was my grandparents way back in the 40s when they lived in Kentucky. And I recently just had it looked at by an antique expert, and it's apparently from like 1800s, so super old, and I was really excited to learn that. So this is my library room. This used to be my childhood bedroom. I used to have it painted purple and pink curtains, pink everything. And then as I got older, kind of lessened with the pink. And then initially I had this as my guest bedroom, so I just had a bed and a dresser, but then I decided to make the space more functional for me. So I got this sleeper sofa, I got these bookshelves, desk, and I just turned it into a little reading room. This is my living room / dining room. It's where I do my TV watching and meals eating. Probably my favorite purchase that I've ever made is my Samsung Frame TV. Right now it's off and it's in art mode, and you can set it to any art you want. So now we are standing in the master bedroom. This used to be my parents' bedroom, but originally when this building was built, this apartment and the one next door would have been combined. So this room would have actually been a dining room. This was the first room that I made a bold color choice in, and I chose to do a dark navy paint for the walls. This is my favorite fireplace. It's not real marble, it's just contact paper. I put fairy lights in the fireplace to give the illusion of a real fire, and the logs that you see in there are actually original, and if you look closely, they have little holes in them where the gas and fire would have come out of. So one of the first things I think I bought for my own apartment after my parents left was this light fixture. I just saw it and I thought it was really cool. They're tassels. I changed every single light fixture except 2 so far. I wanted really modern, kind of spindly chandeliers to play off all of the antiques that I have going on. So this is my pantry, or butler's pantry, I guess you could call it. It's definitely one of my favorite parts of the house just because it's so old school and it's just in its original condition. This here is a dumbwaiter. It's no longer functioning, but back in the day, you'd be able to put stuff in it and go up and down to other apartments. These cabinets are 100% original and I just love them. They just make me feel like I'm living in another time. Back here, built some little shelves to keep food and cooking supplies on. So here is my tiny kitchen. I like it and I can cook in it, which is all that matters. My parents put in these IKEA cabinets and counters a few years back. When we first moved in, there was the original 1890 something sink and it was about yay high and it was dreadful. So they did this, and then a few years later I painted in here, I did the backsplash, I did the shelves, just added a few touches to make it feel a little more cozy in here. So this is my bathroom. It is very New York City. I've done some work in here a few years ago. There was a big leak down into the apartment below and they ended up having to replace all my pipes and it was like a 7-month long disaster, but it was good for me because I got new tiles, I was able to get a new sink, I was able to replace the old light fixtures and give the bathroom a little tiny facelift. So this is my hallway. My mom's first career, she was an art historian, so she collected a lot of art and I've been lucky enough to get some from her. And I put these candle sconces up on the walls that came from my grandparents. And one time I have lit all the candles and it was really cool, but then the fire alarm started going off, so unfortunately that's not an option. So I'm very lucky to have a lot of closet space in New York, and one of my top quarantine projects was getting better organized, purging, and just redoing all of my storage spaces. So the first one I did was this closet. This is my utility closet slash cat bathroom. So my second closet here is unfinished. I still have to paint and do a few more things. I got this rack from IKEA and I keep some sweaters and shoes and just other clothes. And then all these boxes up here, it's all my Christmas decorations. I definitely see myself staying in this apartment, or at least keeping it as my primary residence forever. I am incredibly grateful for my situation, to my parents, and I just feel super lucky, and it's not something that many people get to have, and I completely wish that apartments like this, at a price like this, were more readily available. I think by having this apartment, I do feel a little bit tied down to New York City. And sometimes I look back and I kind of wish that I had spent more time in LA where I went to college, maybe if I had stayed there for a few years after, because now that I am in this apartment and have it in my name, I feel very attached and tied down. I would be insane to give it up, but I would love to keep it for my kids one day if they want it. So with the money I save on rent, I would love to one day be able to buy a fixer-upper upstate. I love DIY, I love design, so that's my ultimate dream, to just get like an old farmhouse and have my way with it.